I walked into my childhood home expecting to discuss flower arrangements and seating charts. Instead, I found my mother Linda, my sister Sarah, and her fiancé Tyler sitting around the kitchen table like a tribunal. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the window seemed to darken as Linda looked up at me with a cold expression I had never seen before. Her lips curved into something that resembled a smile but felt like a blade. "We all agreed you are not welcome at the wedding," she said, her voice carrying a satisfaction that made my stomach drop. Sarah stared at her hands, refusing to meet my eyes. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his face flushed red. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I stood there processing what I had just heard, my mind struggling to make sense of the words. This was my sister's wedding. I was supposed to be the best man. We had spent months planning together, or so I thought. "I need an explanation," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Linda straightened in her chair, clearly prepared for this moment. "You have been nothing but negative and unsupportive throughout this entire process, Mark. Every suggestion we make, you question. Every decision we share, you criticize. I asked about costs," I replied. "I wanted to make sure everything was financially responsible." "See," Sarah finally spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. "Right there. You are trying to control everything just because you have money. Tyler has been looking for work, and your constant questions about expenses make him feel terrible." I looked at Tyler, who avoided my gaze entirely. The man my sister was marrying in 2 weeks had been unemployed for 8 months, and every time I had gently suggested he might want to consider temporary work or expand his job search, the family had accused me of being insensitive. "Control everything," I repeated, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Let me show you what control looks like." I opened my banking app and turned the screen toward them. The numbers glowed bright against the white background. $7,500 transferred to Sarah 3 weeks ago for the Bali honeymoon. $3,000 to Riverside Manor for the rehearsal dinner venue upgrade. $1,500 for Sarah's dress alterations when she decided she wanted a completely different style 2 months before the wedding. "And these," I said, scrolling to another screen, "are the first-class tickets I purchased for Mom to fly to Denver next month for Tyler's family reunion. Round trip, with hotel reservations at the Marriott downtown." The color drained from Linda's face. Sarah's mouth fell open. Tyler finally looked up, his eyes wide with sudden understanding. "You want to talk about control?" I continued, my thumb moving across the screen. "Watch this." I opened my bank's transfer function and began typing. $7,500 from Sarah's account back to mine. The confirmation appeared instantly. "Mark, wait!" Sarah gasped. "I am transferring the honeymoon fund back to my account right now," I announced, as my phone buzzed with the successful transaction notification. "And these Denver flights you were so excited about, Mom? Let me just cancel those." I opened the airline app and began the cancellation process. Linda lunged forward, her hand reaching for my phone. "Stop it, Mark. You are being ridiculous." "Am I?" I asked, completing the cancellation. "Because it sounds like I am being exactly what you accused me of being. Controlling. Using my money to manipulate situations." Tyler finally found his voice. "Mark, please. We already booked excursions in Bali. Scuba diving lessons, the temple tours, the couple's massage package. We put $2,000 on credit cards for activities that are non-refundable." I studied Tyler's face, seeing genuine panic there. $2,000 they clearly did not have, spent on the assumption that my gift would cover their basic travel and accommodation costs. "That sounds like poor financial planning," I said. "But what do I know? I am just the negative, controlling brother who apparently is not family enough to attend the wedding." My phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw it was Danny, my cousin. I declined the call. "Mark, please." Sarah was crying now. "I worked so hard planning this honeymoon. We researched every activity, found the perfect resort. This is supposed to be the most romantic week of our lives. Then maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I was not welcome at your wedding." But even as I said the words, something nagged at me. There was a detail I was forgetting, something important about the wedding itself. Then it hit me. I scrolled through my contacts and called Riverside Manor directly. Linda, Sarah, and Tyler watched in growing horror as I put the call on speaker. Riverside Manor. This is Jessica speaking. Hi, Jessica. This is Mark Thompson. I need to check on the payment status for the Sarah Thompson wedding on October 15th. Of course, Mr. Thompson. Let me pull up that file. Yes. Here it is. The final payment of $8,000 is due tomorrow by 5 p.m. to secure the venue. Should I process the card we have on file? My heart stopped. In all the chaos of helping with smaller expenses, I had forgotten the most important detail. 6 months ago, when Sarah fell in love with Riverside Manor but could not afford the deposit, I had co-signed the contract and put down the initial $3,000 to hold her dream venue. Actually, Jessica, can you confirm whose name the contract is under? The primary contract holder is Marc Thompson, with Sarah Thompson listed as the event coordinator. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. Sarah's crying stopped abruptly. Linda's face went white. Tyler looked like he might be sick. Thank you, Jessica. I will call you back tomorrow about the payment. I ended the call and looked at my family. 3 faces stared back at me with expressions ranging from horror to desperation. $8,000, I said quietly. Due tomorrow. On a contract that I signed as the guarantor. Mark. Linda's voice had lost all its earlier confidence. We can work this out. There has been a misunderstanding, has there? I asked, standing up from the table. Because, from where I stand, it looks like you decided to keep my money but get rid of me. A pretty convenient arrangement. I walked toward the kitchen door, my family's voices rising behind me in a chorus of panic and pleading. We will lose everything, Sarah sobbed. The wedding is in 2 weeks, Tyler said desperately. Mark, do not do this to your sister. Linda called out, but her voice cracked with fear. I paused at the doorway and turned back to look at them one final time. Good to know where I stand with my family, I said. I hope your wedding is everything you dreamed it would be. Without me. The drive home to my downtown apartment felt like traveling through a fog. My phone started ringing before I even reached the first traffic light. Sarah's name flashed on the screen, followed immediately by Linda's number. Then Tyler calling from what must have been his cell phone. I let them all go to voicemail. By the time I pulled into my parking garage, my phone showed 6 missed calls. By the time I reached my apartment door, it was 12. I turned off the ringer and poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon, standing at my kitchen window looking out at the city lights. My reflection stared back from the glass, and I barely recognized the man looking back at me. When had I become the family member they wanted to exclude? When had helping financially become manipulation? When had asking reasonable questions become negativity? The bourbon burned going down, but it was nothing compared to the fire in my chest. My phone vibrated constantly on the counter, the screen lighting up every few seconds with new calls and text messages. I ignored them all until nearly midnight, when I saw Danny's name appear again. Danny was different. He was Linda's nephew, but he had never been one to get involved in family drama. If he was calling this late, something was wrong. Danny, Mark, thank God. I have been trying to reach you for hours. We need to talk. If this is about the wedding, I do not want to hear it. It is about the wedding, but not in the way you think. Mark, I was at your mom's house earlier today. Before you got there, there was a family meeting. My blood turned to ice water. What kind of family meeting? The kind you were not invited to. Mark, they have been planning this for weeks. Your mom, Sarah, Tyler. Even Tyler's mother Patricia came over from Denver for it. They spent 2 hours discussing whether to uninvite you from the wedding. I set down my bourbon glass with shaking hands. 2 hours. Your mom has been poisoning everyone against you for months, Mark. She told Patricia that you show off your success and make everyone else feel inferior. She convinced Sarah that you are trying to buy control of her wedding with your money. That's insane. I know it is. But Patricia suggested they uninvite you because she felt intimidated by your success and wanted her family to appear more prominent at the wedding. She said Tyler's unemployed brother Jake would make a better best man because he would not overshadow the groom financially. I felt sick. Tyler's brother Jake was 22 years old and still lived in Patricia's basement. spending his days playing video games and smoking marijuana. There's more, Mark. They were planning to keep all your money but exclude you from the celebration. Your mom said you would be too embarrassed to ask for it back after being uninvited, and even if you did, they would claim it was freely given gifts. Jesus Christ. Patricia brought a list of reasons why you should not be there. She said your car is too expensive and would make their family look poor in photos. She said your job in tech is boring and you would have nothing to talk about with Tyler's unemployed friends. She even suggested that your success makes Sarah's photography business look like a failure by comparison. I walked to my couch and sat down hard, my head spinning. What did Sarah say to all this? Danny was quiet for a long moment. She agreed. Mark, she said she has always resented that your startup sold successfully while she struggles. She said every family gathering, she feels like a failure compared to you, even when you never say anything about work or money. I bought her new camera equipment last Christmas. I know. And she complained to your mom that it made her feel like a charity case instead of a professional photographer. The pieces were falling into place now, creating a picture so ugly I could barely look at it. My own family had spent weeks crafting reasons to hate me, building a case against my presence at the most important family event in years. Danny, how do you know all this? Were you part of the meeting? Your mom invited me thinking I would agree with them. She figured I would be jealous of your success too, since I am still paying off student loans working at the bank. But Mark, what they were saying was so twisted and wrong. I tried to defend you, but every time I spoke up, your mom had another story about how you were manipulating people with money. Stories. She told everyone about the time you paid for your grandmother Rose's prescription medications. She said you were trying to make everyone else in the family look like they did not care about Grandma's health. She claimed you deliberately chose expensive medications instead of generic ones to show off. I remembered that day clearly. Grandma Rose had been crying at Sunday dinner because her Medicare did not cover her new arthritis medication. The prescription cost $140 a month, money she simply did not have on her fixed income. I had quietly gone to the pharmacy and set up automatic payments so she would not have to worry about it. She needed those medications to walk without pain. I know that. You know that. But your mom twisted it into some kind of power play where you were trying to control Grandma's medical care. My phone buzzed with another call. Linda's name appeared on the screen. They are still calling, I told Danny. Of course they are. After you left, your mom started panicking. She called Patricia back to Denver to tell her about the honeymoon money and the venue situation. Patricia told her she was an idiot for biting the hand that feeds her family. Tyler's mother said that. Exact words. Then Patricia called Tyler and told him to fix the situation immediately or she would disown him for being stupid enough to alienate the only person in the family with any money. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about any of this. Danny, I need to ask you something honestly. Am I really the person they described? Am I controlling or manipulative? Mark, you paid off my student loans last year when I told you I was struggling to make payments and still afford rent. You never mentioned it again. You never asked me to do anything in return. You never made me feel bad about needing help. Does that sound controlling to you? I had forgotten about Danny's student loans. When he mentioned during a casual conversation that he was considering moving back in with his parents to save money, I had offered to help without thinking twice about it. Your family is messed up, Mark. They are jealous of your success, but they also want to benefit from it. And your mom is the worst of all because she is orchestrating the whole thing. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for another hour, my phone continuing to vibrate with calls and messages I could not bring myself to answer. Each buzz felt like another nail in the coffin of relationships I had thought were built on love and mutual respect. Finally, I picked up the phone and scrolled through the voicemail messages. Linda's voice was shaky on the first one. Mark, please call me back. We need to discuss this like adults. By the third message, she sounded angry. You are being ridiculous, Mark. Sarah's happiness is more important than your hurt feelings. By the fifth message, she was pleading. Mark, please. Sarah is crying and she cannot stop. Tyler's family is asking questions we cannot answer. You are destroying your sister's wedding day. Sarah's messages were worse. Her voice was thick with tears. barely intelligible through the sobbing. "Mark, I am sorry. I know you were just trying to help. Please do not punish me for Mom's words. Please do not take away my dream wedding because we hurt your feelings." Tyler had left one message, his voice formal and uncomfortable. "Mark, I want you to know that I respect what you have done for our family financially. I hope we can work this out before the wedding day." The last message was from a number I did not recognize, a woman's voice with a slight Denver accent. "Mark, this is Patricia Williams, Tyler's mother. I believe there has been a misunderstanding about the wedding situation. Perhaps we could discuss this directly rather than through intermediaries." I deleted all the messages without responding and went to bed, but sleep never came. My phone showed 23 missed calls when I woke up the next morning. 23 attempts from my family to reach me, each one representing another moment of panic as they realized the scope of their miscalculation. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at the stack of messages and voicemails that had accumulated overnight. Some were apologetic, some were angry, and some were desperately manipulative, but none of them addressed the real issue. My family had spent weeks building a case against me, crafting reasons to exclude me from one of the most important days of our lives. I was scrolling through text messages when my phone rang again. This time it was Danny. "Mark, we need to talk in person. There are things I could not say over the phone last night. More revelations about how terrible I am. The opposite. Can you meet me for coffee?" Neutral ground. "There are people you need to know about who have been kept in the dark." An hour later, I sat across from Danny at a small cafe downtown, watching him fidget with his coffee cup like he was preparing to defuse a bomb. "How bad is it?" I asked. "Worse than I told you last night. Your mom has been lying to the extended family for months. She told Aunt Jennifer that you could not make it to the wedding because of work conflicts. She told Uncle Robert that you were having personal issues and needed space from family events." "What kind of personal issues?" "She told them you were seeing a therapist for anger management problems and that being around family triggered your temper. She said you had specifically requested not to be included in wedding planning because it stressed you out too much." I set down my coffee cup hard enough to slosh liquid onto the table. "Anger management. She painted you as emotionally unstable and voluntarily distant. She made it sound like excluding you was protecting everyone's safety and respecting your wishes. And they believed her. Of course they believed her. She is your mother. Why would anyone think she would lie about her own son?" "But Mark, Aunt Jennifer called me last night after hearing about the money situation. She was furious." Danny pulled out his phone and scrolled to a text message. "Read this." The message was from Jennifer, my father's sister. "Danny, I need Mark's phone number. Linda told me he could not afford to help with the wedding because of his own financial problems. I have been sending Sarah money from my retirement account for months, thinking Mark was unable to contribute. If what you are telling me is true, Linda has been lying to all of us." My stomach dropped. "Jennifer has been sending Sarah money, $500 a month since March. She cashed in part of her retirement savings because Linda convinced her that you were struggling financially and could not help your sister. Jennifer is 74 years old. She lives on Social Security and her pension, I know, and she is not the only one. Uncle Robert mortgaged his truck to give Sarah $3,000 for wedding expenses. Grandma Rose has been sending $50 a month from her grocery money. I felt like I was going to be sick. My elderly relatives were sacrificing their financial security to help Sarah because Linda had convinced them I was too broke or too selfish to contribute. There's more. Tyler's family has been kept in the dark, too. Patricia thought you were a deadbeat who refused to help with the wedding. Tyler told his whole family that you were jealous of his relationship with Sarah and trying to sabotage their happiness." "What?" "Tyler's been telling people that you disapproved of their relationship and were trying to break them up by creating financial stress. He said you questioned his unemployment as a way to make Sarah doubt marrying him. The manipulation was breathtaking in its scope. Linda and Tyler had created an entirely fictional version of me to justify their actions, spreading lies to both sides of the family to ensure I had no allies." Danny's phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. "Speaking of Uncle Robert, he wants to talk to you." He figured out something was wrong when Patricia called him last night asking about your financial situation. Turns out Patricia had been told you were basically broke, while Robert had been told you were being selfish with your money. The stories didn't match up. Exactly. So Robert called Aunt Jennifer, and Jennifer called Grandma Rose. And suddenly everyone realized they had been given completely different explanations for why you were not helping with the wedding. My phone rang. Uncle Robert's name appeared on the screen. Marc. Robert's gravelly voice was tight with anger. We need to talk, son. Uncle Robert. I'm sorry about all this confusion. Confusion? Marc, your mother has been lying to this entire family for months. I mortgaged my truck because I thought you were too proud to help your sister. Jennifer cashed in her retirement because she thought you were broke. Your grandmother has been skipping meals to send Sarah money because Linda told her you refused to contribute. The weight of Linda's betrayal crashed down on me like an avalanche. She had not just excluded me from the wedding. She had turned my entire extended family into unwilling participants in her manipulation scheme. Robert, I've been paying for almost everything. The honeymoon, the venue deposit, the rehearsal dinner, Sarah's dress alterations. I had no idea you and Jennifer and Grandma were being asked for money. I know that now. Danny filled me in last night. Marc, we have all been played by your mother. She took money from every person in this family who cares about you while telling them you wouldn't help. What do I do now? First, you let me handle Linda. I've been dealing with her manipulation tactics since she married into this family 25 years ago. But this time she crossed a line. Second, you decide whether Sarah's wedding is worth saving despite what they did to you. I don't know if I can forgive this. I'm not asking you to forgive anyone. I'm asking you to think about whether you want your sister's marriage to start with financial ruin and family destruction, or whether you want to be the better man and save something beautiful from this mess. After Robert hung up, Danny and I sat in silence for several minutes. There's one more thing, Danny finally said. Tyler's brother Jake called me this morning. He works part-time at a bank in Denver, and he's been looking into some things that worried him about the family financial situation. What kind of things? The kind that could end up involving law enforcement if someone doesn't step in soon. Danny's expression was grim. Marc, Jake thinks Tyler and Sarah might be in serious legal trouble, and your mom might be right there with them. I stared at my cousin, wondering how much worse this situation could possibly get. What kind of legal trouble? The kind that starts with credit fraud and identity theft, and gets worse from there. My phone continued buzzing throughout the afternoon as word spread through the family network about Linda's deception. Each call brought new revelations about the web of lies she had spun to manipulate everyone around her. Aunt Jennifer called first, her voice shaking with a mixture of fury and heartbreak. She had discovered that Linda had been telling different family members conflicting stories for months, carefully crafting each lie to maximize the emotional impact and financial contribution from each person. Marc, she told me you were having a nervous breakdown and could not handle any stress, Jennifer said. She said the family had agreed not to burden you with wedding responsibilities because of your fragile mental state. I felt so sorry for you, honey. I thought you were suffering in silence. Jennifer, I've never been in better mental health. Business is great. I've been working out regularly, even dating someone new. She told Robert you were being selfish and materialistic, refusing to help your sister because you thought Tyler was beneath your social status. She said you called Tyler a loser and told Sarah she was making a mistake. I've never said anything negative about Tyler except to suggest he might want to expand his job search. She told your grandmother that you were angry about not being made the official best man, and were punishing the family by withholding financial support. Each lie was carefully crafted to trigger a specific response from each family member. Linda knew Jennifer had struggled with depression in her own youth, so she painted me as mentally unstable to trigger Jennifer's protective instincts. She knew Robert valued hard work and despised entitlement, so she painted me as arrogant and elitist. She knew Grandma Rose worried about family harmony, so she painted me as petty and vindictive. The worst part, Jennifer continued, is that she convinced me to take money out of my retirement account. She said you were too proud to accept help from family, but Sarah needed support during this difficult time with your mental health crisis. How much money? $2,500 over 6 months. Money I cannot afford to lose at my age. I closed my eyes, calculating the scope of Linda's financial fraud. Jennifer's $2,500. Robert's $3,000 from mortgaging his truck. Grandma Rose's $50 a month for 6 months, combined with the money Tyler's family had been contributing based on false information about my refusal to help. Jennifer, I'm going to make sure you get every penny back. It's not about the money, Mark. It's about trust. How do we ever trust Linda again after this? How do we have family gatherings knowing she's capable of such elaborate deception? Tyler's mother, Patricia, called an hour later from Denver, her voice tight with embarrassment and anger. Mark, I owe you an enormous apology. Tyler has been telling us for months that you disapproved of their relationship and were trying to sabotage the wedding by creating financial pressure. He said you questioned his career prospects as a way to make Sarah doubt her choice in men. Patricia, I was concerned about practical matters like budgeting for the wedding and honeymoon, but I never said anything against Tyler personally. I know that now. I talked to Tyler for 3 hours last night, and the truth came out. He admitted that your questions about wedding costs made him feel insecure about being unemployed, so he interpreted practical concerns as personal attacks. Your mother encouraged this interpretation and suggested that your involvement in wedding planning was really about controlling Sarah through financial manipulation. What did Tyler actually tell you about me? He said you were jealous of his relationship with Sarah because you had never had a serious girlfriend yourself. He said you were trying to break them up by making him look financially irresponsible compared to your wealth. I almost laughed at the absurdity. I had been in a relationship with Amanda for 8 months. Something Tyler knew perfectly well since I had brought her to several family dinners. Patricia, I'm dating someone. Tyler has met her multiple times. He told us you were making that up to save face because you were jealous of his relationship with Sarah. The depth of manipulation was staggering. Tyler had not just lied about my words and actions. He had created an entirely fictional psychology for me to justify his own insecurity and Linda's machinations. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Hey babe, your sister called me crying about some wedding drama. She said you're not coming to the wedding anymore. What's going on? I realized that the lies had spread even to my girlfriend. I called Amanda back immediately. Amanda, what exactly did Sarah tell you? She said you had a fight with the family about money and decided to boycott the wedding. She was sobbing, saying she was sorry that your relationship with me was causing family tension and she hoped I could convince you to forgive everyone and attend. My relationship with you is causing family tension, according to Sarah. Your mom thinks I'm a bad influence who's making you arrogant and materialistic, Sarah said. Linda blamed me for changing your personality and making you less generous with family. I sat down hard on my couch. Linda had even managed to drag my innocent girlfriend into her web of lies. Amanda, none of that is true. The family uninvited me from the wedding, not the other way around, and you have nothing to do with any of this drama. Sarah made it sound like I was the reason you were refusing to help with wedding costs. I've been paying for almost everything. The honeymoon, the venue, the rehearsal dinner. They uninvited me while keeping my money. Amanda was quiet for a long moment. Mark, that's sick. Who does that to family? Uncle Robert called back that evening with an update from his conversation with Linda. I confronted your mother directly, he said. Told her I knew about the lies she'd been telling everyone. Asked her to explain herself. What did she say? First, she denied everything. Said you were confused and emotional and misinterpreting family dynamics. Then when I told her I'd talked to Jennifer and Patricia, she admitted to some of the lies but claimed she was protecting you. Protecting me from what? According to Linda, you're too generous for your own good, and family members take advantage of your wealth. She said she was trying to prevent people from becoming dependent on your financial support by encouraging them to contribute their own money instead. That makes no sense. That's what I told her. If she was trying to protect you from being used, why did she accept money from a 74-year-old woman on Social Security? Why did she let me mortgage my truck? Why did she take advantage of the very people she claimed to be protecting you from? What did she say to that? She started crying and admitted she's been overwhelmed by wedding planning stress. Said she made some poor decisions but never intended to hurt anyone. Classic Linda manipulation tactics. You don't believe her. Mark, I've watched your mother operate for 2 decades. She's a master manipulator who uses tears and victimhood whenever she gets caught. This isn't stress or poor judgment. This is deliberate, calculated deception designed to benefit her at everyone else's expense. The final call of the day came from Grandma Rose. Her frail voice carried a sadness that broke my heart. Mark, sweetheart, I'm so confused about everything that's been happening. Linda told me you were upset about not being the best man and were refusing to help Sarah with wedding costs out of spite. Grandma, that's not true. I've been helping with costs, and I was supposed to be the best man until they decided I wasn't welcome at the wedding at all. She said you had become selfish since your business success and were looking down on the family. She said you told Sarah that Tyler wasn't good enough for her because he doesn't have money. I never said any of those things. I know you didn't, sweetheart. I've known you since you were born, and you've always had a generous heart. When I was worried about my prescription costs, you quietly took care of everything without making me feel ashamed about needing help. That's not the behavior of a selfish person. Grandma, I just found out you've been sending money to Sarah from your grocery budget. You should never have had to do that. Linda said the family needed to pull together to help Sarah since you couldn't contribute. I wanted to do my part, even though $50 a month meant eating a lot of soup and crackers. The image of my 82-year-old grandmother surviving on soup and crackers so she could help pay for a wedding I was already funding made me physically ill. Grandma, you're never going hungry again because of anyone else's lies. I promise you that. After we hung up, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the wreckage of relationships I had thought were built on love and trust. My family had not just excluded me from the wedding. They had systematically destroyed my reputation with lies designed to maximize financial gain while minimizing their guilt about treating me poorly. But there was still one more phone call to make. One more piece of information I needed before I decided how to respond to this betrayal. I scrolled through my contacts and found Tyler's brother Jake. If he had information about potential legal trouble, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before making any decisions about saving or destroying what was left of this family. Jake Williams answered his phone on the first ring, his voice tight with anxiety. Mark, thank God you called. I've been trying to figure out how to reach you without Tyler knowing. We need to talk privately about some things I've discovered. Danny mentioned you work at a bank and found something troubling. I work part-time in loan processing at First Denver Trust. Tyler doesn't know I have access to credit reporting systems as part of my job. Mark, your family is in deeper financial trouble than anyone realizes. My chest tightened. What kind of trouble? Tyler and Sarah have $47,000 in credit card debt across 8 different cards. Her photography business has been losing money for 2 years, but she's been hiding it from Tyler and your family by taking cash advances to pay basic bills. $47,000. That's just the credit cards. Sarah has defaulted on her student loans, which are now in collections. Tyler owes $12,000 in back taxes from unemployment benefits he received but didn't report properly. Their combined debt load is over $70,000. I felt sick. No wonder they had been so desperate to keep my financial contributions while eliminating my presence from the wedding. They were drowning in debt and saw the wedding as a source of income rather than a celebration. But Mark, that's not the worst part. I ran a credit check on your mother too, and what I found is criminal. Criminal how? Linda took out a second mortgage on your childhood home 18 months ago, $68,000 against a house that was almost paid off. The mortgage company has her listed as a single borrower, but the original deed had both your parents' names on it. My father died 4 years ago. I know. And according to the documents I found, Linda forged his signature on insurance claim forms to access death benefits that were supposed to be held in trust. She's been collecting payments from 3 different insurance policies by claiming your father died in work-related accidents instead of natural causes. My hands started shaking. Are you saying my mother is committing insurance fraud? I'm saying your mother has been stealing money using your dead father's identity for years. The insurance fraud is just the beginning. She has also been borrowing money from elderly relatives with no intention of paying them back, which is elder financial abuse. And based on bank records I shouldn't have access to but do. She has a serious gambling addiction. Gambling. Online poker, casino visits, sports betting. She's lost over $30,000 in the past year alone. The second mortgage money is gone. The insurance fraud money is gone. And she owes dangerous people money that she cannot repay. I walked to my kitchen and poured another bourbon, my mind reeling from the scope of Linda's criminal activity. Jake, how do you have access to all this information? My supervisor is dating someone who works in financial crimes investigation. When I told her about some suspicious patterns I noticed in your family's credit reports, she helped me dig deeper. Officially, I never saw any of this information. Unofficially, your mother is going to be arrested within 6 months unless someone intervenes. Arrested. The insurance fraud alone is a federal crime. Add in the elder abuse, identity theft, and potential money laundering through her gambling activities, and she's looking at serious prison time. I needed to sit down. The woman who had raised me, who had spent hours helping me with homework and attended every school event, was a criminal who had been using our family as cover for increasingly desperate financial crimes. Jake, why are you telling me this? Why not go to Tyler with this information? Because Tyler already knows most of it. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Tyler has been helping Linda hide her debts and gambling addiction for months, has been using his unemployment benefits to pay some of her gambling debts, and Sarah has been using her photography business as a way to launder some of the insurance money through fake wedding contracts. Sarah knows too. Sarah has been creating fake invoices for wedding photography services that Linda pays for using the insurance money. Then Sarah gives the money back to Linda minus a small percentage. On paper, it looks like Linda is paying for legitimate business services. In reality, it's money laundering. I felt like the floor was disappearing beneath my feet. My entire immediate family was involved in criminal activity, using the wedding as cover for financial fraud schemes. The wedding venue choice, the expensive photographer, all the vendors demanding cash payments instead of credit cards. Jake continued. They were all selected based on which ones offered kickbacks or money laundering opportunities. Linda has been using the wedding planning process to move dirty money around. And they wanted me out of the picture because I might notice the irregular financial activity. Exactly. You ask too many questions about costs and payment methods. You want receipts and documentation for expenses. You're the kind of person who would spot financial fraud immediately if you were involved in wedding planning. My phone buzzed with another call from Sarah. I declined it automatically. Jake, why are you risking your job to tell me this? Because you're the only person in either family with the financial resources and legal knowledge to possibly save them from prison. But more importantly, because what they did to you is wrong, and you deserve to know the truth before you make any decisions about helping them. What do you think I should do? That depends on whether you think they can be saved or whether they're too far gone. The insurance fraud investigation is already underway. Federal agents have been asking questions about Linda's financial activity. If someone doesn't intervene soon with legitimate money to pay back what she stole, she's going to be arrested. How much money would it take? Conservative estimate. $200,000 to pay back the insurance fraud, cover the gambling debts to dangerous people, and get Tyler and Sarah out of credit card debt before their creditors start legal action. $200,000. More money than most people saw in a lifetime, but not impossible for me to access if I liquidated some investments and took loans against my property holdings. And if I did that, what guarantee would I have that they wouldn't just continue the criminal activity? None. In fact, given Linda's gambling addiction and the family's apparent comfort with lying and stealing, I'd say the odds of them repeating this behavior are extremely high. We sat in silence for several minutes while I processed the full scope of what I had learned. My family was not just ungrateful and manipulative. They were criminals who had been using our relationships as cover for increasingly serious crimes. Jake, there's one more thing I need to ask you. Are you safe? If Tyler finds out you've been investigating their financial activity and sharing information with me, could you face retaliation? I'm more worried about you, Marc. If Linda realizes you know about the criminal activity, she might see you as a threat that needs to be eliminated. These gambling debts she owes are to some very bad people who don't like loose ends. After we hung up, I sat alone with the weight of information that could destroy my family or save them, depending on the choices I made in the next 24 hours. My phone showed 43 missed calls and dozens of text messages from family members begging, threatening, and pleading for my forgiveness and financial assistance. But none of them knew that I now had evidence of federal crimes that could send them all to prison. The question was, what was I going to do with that knowledge? I spent the sleepless hours before dawn crafting a plan that would accomplish 3 goals. Expose Linda's criminal activity to the family, save Sarah's wedding from complete disaster, and establish clear boundaries that would prevent future manipulation and fraud. By 7 a.m., I had created a detailed dossier of evidence Jake had helped me compile, along with documentation of every lie Linda had told to different family members over the past 6 months. I had contacted a criminal defense attorney to understand the legal implications of what I was about to reveal. Most importantly, I had made a decision that would either restore my family relationships on my terms or end them permanently. I created a group text message that included every family member on both sides: Linda, Sarah, Tyler, Uncle Robert, Aunt Jennifer, Grandma Rose, Danny, Patricia Williams from Denver, and Tyler's father, Michael. Even Tyler's brother Jake was included, though he already knew what was coming. The message was simple: family meeting at my apartment at 2 p.m. today. Attendance is mandatory. We're going to discuss Linda's financial crimes, the lies told about me, and the future of Sarah's wedding. Come prepared for complete honesty, or don't come at all. My phone started ringing immediately. I ignored every call. At exactly 2 p.m., my apartment buzzed with visitors. Uncle Robert arrived first, followed by Danny and Patricia Williams, who had flown in from Denver specifically for this meeting. Tyler and Sarah arrived together, both looking pale and frightened. Linda came last, her face set in defiant anger. I had arranged my living room with printed copies of bank records, credit reports, insurance documents, and transcripts of voicemails for each person. When everyone was seated, I stood in front of them like a prosecutor addressing a jury. We're here because this family has been built on lies, manipulation, and criminal activity for months. Today, everyone learns the truth. I started with Linda's lies to extended family members, reading verbatim the different stories she had told Robert, Jennifer, and Rose about my mental health, financial situation, and attitude toward the wedding. I showed them copies of Jennifer's retirement account withdrawals, Robert's truck mortgage documents, and Rose's bank statements showing $50 monthly transfers to Sarah. While Linda was telling Robert that I was being selfish with money, she was telling Jennifer that I was mentally unstable and couldn't help. While she was telling Rose that I was angry about not being best man, she was telling Patricia that I was jealous of Tyler's relationship with Sarah. The room was silent except for Jennifer's sharp intake of breath as she realized the scope of the deception. Next, I revealed Tyler's lies to his family about my approval of their relationship and my reasons for asking financial questions. I showed them text messages Tyler had sent his parents claiming I was trying to break up his relationship with Sarah out of jealousy. Tyler told his family I was a jealous single man trying to sabotage his happiness. Tyler has met my girlfriend Amanda multiple times. He knew this characterization was false when he said it. Tyler's face went red, but he remained silent. Then I presented the financial evidence Jake had helped me compile. Credit card statements showing $47,000 in debt, student loan default notices, bank records showing Linda's gambling losses, insurance fraud documentation, the forged signature on death benefit claims. Linda has been committing federal insurance fraud using my dead father's identity. Tyler and Sarah have been helping her launder money through fake business transactions. The entire family has been living on stolen money while manipulating relatives to contribute even more. Linda finally spoke, her voice shaking with rage. You have no right to invade our privacy. Those documents are private financial information. These documents show criminal activity that could send you to federal prison, Linda. Jake obtained this information legally through his work in banking, and he shared it with me because he was concerned about elder financial abuse in our family. I turned to address the room as a whole. The wedding you've all been contributing to and fighting about has been used as cover for money laundering and fraud. Linda chose vendors who would participate in kickback schemes. Sarah created fake invoices to move dirty money around. Tyler used unemployment benefits to pay gambling debts. Grandma Rose spoke for the first time, her voice barely a whisper. Is this why I've been eating soup for months? So you could gamble away money you stole? Linda's defiant facade cracked. She started crying, but they were tears of self-pity rather than genuine remorse. I never meant for it to go this far. The gambling started small, just a way to try to win money to help with family expenses. When I started losing, I had to find ways to cover the losses. Everything I did was to protect this family from financial ruin. You mean everything you did was to protect yourself from the consequences of your gambling addiction? Robert said coldly. And you were willing to let an 82-year-old woman go hungry to cover your tracks. I pulled out a folder containing my response plan. Harris, what's going to happen? First, Linda, you're going to return every penny you borrowed from family members within 30 days. Or I'm turning this evidence over to federal investigators. I don't have that money. I know you don't. That's why I'm going to pay back Jennifer, Robert, and Rose myself. And then Linda will owe the money to me instead of to them. She'll pay me back on a schedule well established through legal contracts, with her house as collateral. I turned to Tyler and Sarah. Second, you two are going to attend financial counseling and debt management courses. I'm going to pay off your credit cards and student loans, but you'll pay me back over 5 years at reasonable interest rates. All of your financial activity will be monitored until the debts are cleared. What about the wedding? Sarah asked, her voice small and frightened. I've been in contact with Riverside Manor today. I'm paying the full venue fee directly to them. I've also hired a new photographer who doesn't participate in money laundering schemes, and I've arranged for a modest but beautiful honeymoon in Napa Valley instead of Bali. Patricia Williams spoke up. What about the guest list? Are you planning to attend? I'm attending the wedding as Sarah's brother and the person who made it financially possible. Tyler's brother Jake will be the best man, as originally planned by the conspiracy against me. But I want Tyler's family to understand that I never opposed this marriage or tried to sabotage their happiness. I pulled out one final document. Linda, you're also going to sign an agreement establishing a trust fund for any future grandchildren that you cannot access or manipulate, and you're entering gambling addiction treatment immediately, paid for by me but monitored by the rest of the family. What if I refuse? Linda asked defiantly. Then I turn this evidence over to federal investigators tomorrow. Tyler and Sarah lose their wedding venue and go to prison for money laundering. And Jennifer, Robert, and Rose lose the money they can't afford to have stolen. Your choice. The room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. Uncle Robert was the first to speak. Linda, if you don't accept Marc's conditions, I'm calling the FBI myself. What you did to your own mother-in-law is unforgivable. Jennifer nodded agreement. Marc is offering you a chance to make this right without destroying everyone's lives. You should be grateful instead of defiant. Patricia Williams looked at Tyler with disappointment. Tyler, you lied to our entire family about Marc's character while participating in criminal activity. You owe him more than an apology. Tyler finally found his voice. Marc, I know what we did was wrong. Sarah and I got caught up in Linda's schemes, and when we started drowning in debt, we convinced ourselves that taking your money while excluding you was somehow justified. We were wrong. Sarah was crying, but these were tears of genuine remorse rather than manipulation. Marc, I know sorry isn't enough. I was jealous of your success, and I let Mom convince me that your help came with strings attached. I wanted to believe you were controlling because it made me feel better about being financially dependent on you. I looked at each person in the room, seeing genuine shock and remorse from most of them, continued defiance from Linda, and calculating acceptance from Tyler. The conditions are non-negotiable, I said. Linda enters gambling treatment and pays back the family money over time. Tyler and Sarah attend financial counseling and pay back their debts over 5 years. Everyone acknowledges that Linda lied about me to manipulate family members. And most importantly, family financial discussions happen in the open from now on, with no more secret meetings or manufactured crises. Linda finally nodded agreement, her spirit broken by the exposure of her crimes and the realization that her manipulation tactics would no longer work. What about forgiveness? Sarah asked quietly. How do we earn back your trust? I considered the question carefully. Trust is earned through consistent, honest behavior over time. Forgiveness is possible, but it requires genuine change, not just apologies motivated by financial desperation. Do you still love us? Grandma Rose asked, her voice breaking my heart. I love you, Rose. I love the memory of the family I thought we were. Whether I can love the family we actually are remains to be seen. As everyone prepared to leave, Patricia Williams approached me privately. Marc, Tyler's family owes you a debt of gratitude. We misjudged you based on lies, and we treated you poorly as a result. If there's anything we can do to make amends, please let us know. Treat Sarah with kindness at the wedding. Help Tyler become a better man. And don't let Linda manipulate you into any more family drama. After everyone left, I stood alone in my apartment, surrounded by the wreckage of relationships that might be salvageable with time and effort. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. How did the family meeting go? I called her back, suddenly desperate to hear a voice that carried no manipulation or hidden agenda. It went better than expected and worse than I hoped. I told her, but I think I may have saved my family from themselves, even if they don't appreciate it yet. 3 months later, I stood at the altar of Riverside Manor watching my sister marry Tyler Williams in a ceremony that was beautiful in its simplicity and honesty. The guest list was smaller than originally planned, but everyone present was there out of genuine love and support rather than financial obligation or social manipulation. Sarah looked radiant in her dress, which we had purchased together during a shopping trip that included an honest conversation about money, family, and the difference between generosity and control. Tyler had found employment at a marketing firm and was attending financial counseling sessions twice a week with Sarah. Their vows included promises of transparency and communication that I hoped they would honor. Linda sat in the front row, looking older and more fragile than I remembered, but also more genuine than she had seemed in years. The gambling treatment program had forced her to confront not just her addiction but the underlying insecurity and need for control that had driven her to manipulate everyone around her. She was paying me back $50 a month from her part-time job at a local retail store, an amount that would take decades to complete but represented genuine accountability for her actions. Tyler's family had embraced me warmly once they understood the truth about the wedding finances and family dynamics. Patricia Williams had become an unexpected ally, offering Tyler tough love about taking responsibility for his choices while supporting his efforts to build a healthier relationship with money and honesty. Jake Williams had been promoted at his bank and was attending college part-time to finish his degree. His decision to expose the family financial crimes had been difficult, but he told me privately that he slept better knowing he had prevented elderly family members from losing more money they couldn't afford. Uncle Robert approached me during the reception, raising his beer bottle in a casual toast. You did good, nephew. Your dad would be proud of how you handled this mess. I hope so. There were moments I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing or just being vindictive. There's a difference between justice and revenge, Marc. Justice is what you delivered. You held people accountable while still offering them a path to redemption. That takes wisdom and maturity. Aunt Jennifer joined our conversation, her face glowing with contentment. Marc, I want you to know that getting my money back from Linda wasn't the important part. Having the truth come out was what mattered. I can sleep at night now knowing that I wasn't being taken advantage of anymore. How's Rose adjusting to everything? Your grandmother is doing much better now that she doesn't have to choose between groceries and helping family. She told me yesterday that she finally understands why you were always so careful with money. She said you learned to be responsible because you saw what happens when people aren't. Later in the evening, Sarah found me standing on the venue's terrace, looking out at the landscaped gardens where other couples were taking wedding photos. Marc, can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. She sat down on the stone bench beside me, her wedding dress carefully arranged to avoid wrinkles. I've been thinking about what you said 3 months ago about forgiveness requiring genuine change, not just apologies. Have you been making genuine changes? I think so. The financial counseling has been harder than I expected because it forced Tyler and me to admit how irresponsible we've been with money. We weren't just victims of Mom's manipulation. We made choices that put us in debt and then made worse choices trying to hide those problems. What's different now? We're paying you back 20% more than the minimum payment every month, even when it means eating ramen noodles for dinner. We opened a joint checking account that requires both signatures for any purchase over $50. And we told Tyler's family about our debt problems so they can help us stay accountable. Those are good practical steps, but the biggest change is that I finally understand the difference between family support and family exploitation. You've been supporting me for years, but you never made me feel ashamed about needing help, and you never used your generosity as a way to control my choices. Mom did both of those things while taking credit for your generosity. I studied my sister's face, looking for signs of manipulation or performance, but seeing only genuine reflection and growth. Sarah, there's something I need to tell you. When I first found out about Linda's lies and the financial crimes, part of me wanted to let you all face the consequences without any help from me. I was hurt and angry enough to consider walking away from this family permanently. What changed your mind? Uncle Robert reminded me that sometimes loving people means refusing to enable their worst behaviors. If I had just walked away, Linda would have continued gambling and stealing. Tyler would have continued lying about employment and debt. And you would have continued living in denial about your financial problems. So you forced us to face reality. I gave you the tools to face reality, while removing your ability to avoid consequences. Whether you actually use those tools to build better lives is up to you. Sarah was quiet for several minutes, watching other wedding guests dance through the terrace windows. Marc, do you think we'll ever have the kind of family relationship we had before all this happened? No, I said honestly, but I think we might have something better. A relationship built on truth instead of comfortable illusions. A family that actually supports each other instead of just talking about support while manipulating each other behind closed doors. Are you happy with how everything turned out? I considered the question carefully. 3 months ago, I had been prepared to lose my entire immediate family, rather than continue enabling their dishonest and destructive behavior. Tonight, I was watching my sister marry a man who was genuinely trying to become better, surrounded by extended family members who understood the importance of honesty and accountability. I'm proud of the choices I made, I said finally, and am hopeful about the choices you and Tyler are making now. Whether that becomes happiness depends on whether these changes last beyond the immediate consequences. Amanda appeared on the terrace, looking beautiful in the blue dress we had chosen together for the wedding. Sorry to interrupt, but they're about to cut the cake, and I thought you might want to see Sarah's face when she tastes the chocolate raspberry filling you insisted on instead of vanilla. I laughed, remembering the argument about cake flavors that had happened before any of us knew about the deeper family problems. Such a small thing compared to financial fraud and manipulation, but somehow representative of the kind of attention to detail that came from actually caring about Sarah's preferences instead of just going through the motions of wedding planning. He'll be right there. As the three of us walked back into the reception hall, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Genuine peace about my family relationships. Not the false peace that comes from avoiding conflict, but the real peace that comes from addressing problems honestly and creating boundaries based on mutual respect rather than guilt and obligation. The wedding cake was perfect. Sarah's delight was genuine, and Tyler's gratitude was visible in every interaction he had with guests who congratulated him on finding such a supportive brother-in-law. Linda watched from her table with what appeared to be genuine pride rather than calculating manipulation, and the extended family members mingled with Tyler's family in conversations marked by honesty rather than hidden agendas. 6 months later, I received a handwritten letter from Sarah that contained photos from their modest honeymoon in Napa Valley and an update on their financial progress. They had paid down 2 of their credit cards completely and were ahead of schedule on their repayment plan to me. Tyler had received a promotion at work and was considering going back to school for a business degree. Most importantly, they had started attending a support group for families affected by gambling addiction, where they were learning to recognize and address manipulation tactics. Linda's progress was slower but consistent. She had maintained her sobriety from gambling for 6 months and was working with a therapist to address the underlying issues that had led to her addictive behaviors. Her monthly payments to me were small but regular, and she had started volunteering at a senior center to understand the impact of elder financial abuse on vulnerable populations. Uncle Robert called regularly with updates on extended family dynamics, reporting that the honesty I had demanded was becoming a new normal for family interactions. Jennifer had started attending financial planning classes for seniors to avoid future exploitation. Rose had gained weight and energy now that she could afford proper nutrition. But the most meaningful change was in my relationship with Amanda. Watching her support me through the family crisis while maintaining appropriate boundaries with people who had tried to manipulate her gave me a deeper appreciation for her character and judgment. We had started talking about marriage ourselves, with the understanding that our relationship would be built on the foundation of honesty and mutual respect that I had finally established with my family. As I sat in my apartment writing thank you notes to family members who had supported me through the crisis, I reflected on the life lesson that had emerged from months of painful family drama. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for people is refuse to participate in their dysfunction, even when that refusal causes temporary pain and conflict. Setting boundaries based on honesty and accountability had saved my family from financial ruin and criminal prosecution, but more importantly, it had given us the opportunity to build relationships based on truth rather than manipulation. Whether we would all choose to take advantage of that opportunity remained to be seen. But for the first time in years, I felt optimistic about our chances. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Dana's name appeared on the screen. "Mark, I hope you're sitting down. I just got a call from Jake Williams with some interesting news about Tyler and Sarah. Good news or bad news? The best kind of news. Tyler got a promotion to manager at his company, and Sarah just booked her biggest photography contract ever. They want to make an early payment on their debt to you to celebrate their progress." I smiled, feeling genuinely proud of my sister and brother-in-law for the first time since their engagement announcement. That is good news. It sounds like the financial counseling and accountability measures are working. There's more. Linda asked Patricia Williams to be her accountability partner for the gambling addiction recovery program. Apparently, Tyler's mother is the only person Linda trusts to be completely honest with her about manipulation tactics. Linda voluntarily asked for accountability. Patricia said Linda told her that she finally understands the difference between people who enable destructive behavior and people who actually care enough to stop it. She said she wants to learn how to be the second kind of person instead of the first. After we hung up, I poured myself a small glass of the good bourbon I saved for special occasions. Tonight felt like a celebration was warranted, not because the family drama was over, but because everyone involved was finally doing the hard work of becoming better people rather than just talking about wanting to change. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "Dinner tomorrow night? I have something important I want to discuss with you." I responded immediately. "Absolutely. Should I be nervous or excited?" "Both," came her reply, followed by a heart emoji. I laughed, realizing that healthy relationships might involve surprises, but they didn't require the constant anxiety about hidden agendas and manipulation that had characterized my family interactions for so long. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who were taking advantage of your generosity? Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who need us to love them enough to say no to their destructive behaviors. Learning to distinguish between genuine support and enabling dysfunction is one of the most challenging but important skills we can develop in our relationships. I hope this story reminds you that standing up for yourself doesn't make you selfish, and requiring honesty and accountability from family members is an act of love, not punishment. True family bonds are strengthened by truth, not weakened by it. Thank you for listening to this story about family, forgiveness, and the courage it takes to do what's right even when it's difficult. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges, and share your own experiences with setting boundaries in the comments below. I read every comment and appreciate you taking the time to engage with these stories. May you find the strength to build relationships based on honesty and mutual respect, and may you never have to choose between your integrity and your family's approval.